Hello Gemini, welcome to Monarch Intuition, and today I'm going to be doing your Grand Occult reading for 2023. So if you're new to my channel, what I like to do is I like to pull one major arcana to see the energy and then clarify with a different deck. So what needs to come out for the sign of Gemini? What do we need to know for you? We have Justice, so the balancing of the scales right here. I believe Taurus got this. This card wants to fall out too, so I'm going to look at it. We have the Wheel of Fortune, balancing out the Wheel of Fortune. So this is very interesting. It's almost as though the Wheel of Fortune is going to stop and you're going to see both ends of the wheel, all right? So it's almost as though Justice is telling the Wheel of Fortune to stop moving right here. And wherever you are on the Wheel of Fortune, that's going to be your fate, okay? Now, I kind of feel like it's important, it's integral that you wrap up a lot of karmic cycles right here because Justice is balancing of the karmic scales as well, right? So wrapping up a lot of karma within your life. So that way you don't get caught on the bottom of the wheel if the wheel should stop turning for a period of time. And when we talk about the Wheel of Fortune stop turning, it's kind of like, you know, when everyone went in lockdown for that time period, that's kind of like when the Wheel of Fortune stopped moving. A lot of people, if they didn't have, you know, excess money in the bank, a lot of bad things happen to them. Sorry, I got tongue-tied. If people didn't have, you know, excess food stocked up, it was going to be a bad time for them because things had just shut down, the world had just shut down, right? And so what I'm seeing with the Justice and the Wheel of Fortune is if that scenario happens in 2023, which could very well happen, you need to make sure that you are prepared for that situation. And when I talk about being prepared, I'm not saying being a doomsday prepper, but it's better to have stuff and not need it than to need stuff and not have it, right? Talked about that, I believe, in Aries reading. So the balancing of the Wheel of Fortune, you don't know where the wheel is going to stop. You can only hope that you're on top of the wheel or at least very close to the top of the wheel, all right? You don't want to be caught on the bottom. So what do we need to know for this Gemini energy? But it can also be represented as people who are on the bottom of the wheel will be judged, and people who are on the top of the wheel will also be judged. Balancing of the scales right there. So what do we need to know for the sign of Gemini? I'm going to be using the Revelations Tarot. This deck does have reversals. We have the Wheel of Fortune again. We have the Two of Wands in reversed, and we have the Magician in reversed. Here's the thing. The Wheel of Fortune, we just talked about it, right? The wheel goes up, the wheel goes down. As above, so below. And it goes on into infinity. It's kind of like the life cycle of your life right here. You know, when you're born, when you're like a young child, when you're in your middle ages, and when you're an old person, and then into death, right? So with this Two of Wands in reverse right here, it's like the Wheel of Fortune has stopped spinning. You want to go on a new adventure, but you can't do that. The wheel is like saying, you're stuck here right now. And the Magician in reverse, it's almost like a trickster is causing this to happen for you. I talked about this in, I believe, Taurus's reading. The devil wants people chained to this world. The devil doesn't want you to expand. The devil doesn't want you to see anything more than this world, right? And I brought it up in the other two readings, like the idea of John Lennon's Imagine, how it's like, imagine this perfect society where everything's going to be great. But here's the thing. You're only looking at a very small scale. This world that we have is a beautiful world. Don't get me wrong. I love this world. However, it is almost like an oasis in space. It's kind of like a checkpoint. Yes, we need to take care of it and we need to leave the campground better for the next generation. However, there is more to outer space. There is more to life than just this planet. And we can't just dedicate our entire lives to wanting to stay here. We have to explore the rest of the universe. We have to expand our consciousness, expand our minds. What is a dimension? How do we, you know, comprehend these things? We need to understand the concepts of infinity. Like, you don't want to be stuck on the bottom of the Wheel of Fortune. You don't want to be at the bottom where everyone's just going around in circles and everyone's in la la land, taking, you know, drugs and alcohol, just mindlessly wandering around. So with the with the Magician right here, this does represent, you know, someone who's a trickster. The Magician can cast a spell, however, he can also keep people under a spell for his own self-gain, his own self-interest. And that's kind of what the Magician is in reverse. He's doing something for his own self-interest. So let's clarify this Wheel of Fortune. have the Four of Pentacles and the Moon. Yeah, keeping you chained. You cannot see because the Moon represents illusion, mystery, insanity. It can represent mental disorders, but it can also represent you can't see things clearly, and you're holding on to it with the Four of Pentacles. You're holding on to the Wheel of Fortune going around and around and around, but you're not expanding your consciousness. And I feel like, Gemini, that's something that you really need to do right here, is you really need to open up your mind and think critically for yourself. Do you want to be stuck here? And if you are stuck in a situation, how are you going to manage it? What is this Two of Wands? The Six of Cups and the Page of Cups. You know, it's kind of like, you know, everyone's just drinking their drinks. Everyone's just having a good time. No one's ever wanting to improve themselves. And you can look at just the general population and see that. Right, Gemini? You can just look at the general population and see, wow, these people have no ambition. It's like they've lost all motivation. All they care about is nothing. So what's this Magician in reversed? We have the Queen of Swords and we have the Five of Pentacles. The Queen of Swords is someone who speaks a harsh truth, and the Five of Pentacles represents, you know, impoverishment and being stuck. So it's almost like this Magician is speaking a spell of poverty over people right here. It's kind of like, you know, rich people, rich elite people. They'll start a war just because they're bored. They'll just start a war. Because they have this idea of making the world in their image. They have this idea of, we have to have a bad guy, we have to have a good guy. It's kind of like, you know, that woman who caught Osama bin Laden in, I can't remember the movie, I think it's called Zero Dark 30, I talked about it before. She caught Osama bin Laden, she knew where he was for like almost a year. She's like, we have to raid this compound. They're like, no, we can't raid the compound yet. We need to have exact proof. And she's like, here's the proof. He's here. They're like, yeah, but we'll just wait. It's because the government is making a villain. Making people scared. Making people stuck in a state of, you know, panic. And during that time period, you know, during the War on Terror, things were, like, really bad around the country. Things were really bad around the world. You know, prices were up. People couldn't find jobs. It was, like, almost like the Great Depression all over again. So the Magician speaking a spell to keep people stuck in an impoverished state of mind. And I feel like that's where you are, Gemini. You have an opportunity when the wheel stops moving again, which it most likely will. One card on that. The Four of Wands, yeah. You have the opportunity to celebrate at the top of the wheel versus being caught off guard at the bottom of the wheel. Okay? The Four of Wands, there are two on one side, two at the top, two at the bottom. The Magician is as above, so below, right? The Justice, balancing of the scales right here. The Six of Swords coming out. One more card. The Lovers. Your energy is here, Gemini. You don't want to be caught in, you know, a really devilish situation. You want to be connected to a higher power, a more supreme being. You need to follow your intuition right here. You need to follow your intellect. There is a machine called a colloidal, whatever. It's a silver machine. Look at what it does. It really is a good source of medicine. Maybe stocking up on that. Maybe stocking up on willow bark. Maybe, you know, or just having a book that teaches you about the plants that are around you. Can you make, you know, an antibiotic, or at least some type of antibiotic out of, you know, what's around you? You don't have to, you know, make this your life, but just knowing when you're bored, having that book, just picking it up and saying, oh, elderberry tea or elderberry syrup is really good for the immune system. Or black walnuts and garlic both have selenium inside of them. Selenium is great for, you know, killing funguses, killing viruses, killing bacteria, help promoting immune systems. You know, it's kind of like that right there. Don't be caught off guard. The Eight of Swords. Don't be trapped. And here's the thing. It can feel boring. It can feel like, you know, an overload of information as well. You can feel stuck. You might not even feel like anything's going to happen. But here's the thing, you don't want to be stuck in a situation. This is also your energy, Gemini, where you can't move forward, right? You might think, well, that doesn't really make sense. I live in the city. But here's the thing, how much, for example, there's a child's Tylenol shortage right now. Soon to be a regular Tylenol shortage. Soon to be, you know, a bunch of other shortages as well. A lack. How can you function in a society that is impoverished? It is lacking. The Four of Cups with the Three of Wands. I feel like you have an opportunity. I feel like opportunities have been handed to you and you've seen them with the Three of Wands and you're just like, I don't know. Maybe. But here's the thing, Gemini. It's all synchronistic. That's what I'm feeling for you. A lot of high synchronicities right here. Say, for example, someone's like, you know what? I'm really good at, you know, picking out edible berries in the forest. You want to go berry hunting with me? And you're like, oh, I don't know. It's kind of like Saturday. You have to get up early. I'd rather just stay in bed. But that's the universe offering you that right there. Okay? The universe is offering you the opportunity to learn something. It could be something as simple as, you know, maybe there's an older person in your community who's a mechanic and is like, hey, let me teach you how to, you know, fix a car. That will be very important because most cars are made out of wiring now, out of electronics. They fall apart really easily. I used to sell cars, right? Old cars, if you can fix them and you can, like, you know, 3D print the pieces, and that's something that's becoming really popular is 3D printing car parts for older vehicles, those cars will run forever. However, if you're not a computer programmer and your chip fucks up, well, you're fucked. So, you know, I feel like you just have opportunities that are being handed to you, like, hey, study this, hey, do you want to do this? This will be really good for, you know, later on down the line. And here's the thing, even if you don't need it, the fact that you can pass that skill of survival off to someone else is very important. The Two of Pentacles, yeah, balancing it out. Because you can still take one thing and hand it over to this thing there too, right? You can also teach this skill to someone else. Seven of Wands. Because here's the thing, it's kind of like pushing back against the status quo. It's like saying, I can be self-sufficient on my own. I don't have to be caught off guard in society. For example, I had this argument a long time ago. Someone said if medicinal herbs worked, then they would be used in medicine. And I was like, did you go to, like, fucking basic science in school? Because almost all medication comes from a plant of some sort. Aspirin, willow bark, you know, hinokial oil, the magnolia bark, which is being used in cancer treatments. Selenium being also used in cancer treatments right now. You can look up the CDC statistics. They're using hinokial and selenium for people who are going through chemotherapy, and they've had really good results. I mean, what is opium at the end of the day? It's fucking poppy seeds. What is, you know, narco or Percocet or any of that stuff? It's all poppy related. You know, I mean, caffeine comes from the cocoa bean. Well, a majority of the caffeine comes from the cocoa bean. There are other types of caffeines that you can get from other plants, but, I mean, the most overused stimulant in the world comes from a plant. Cocaine, it comes from the coffee bean. So, it's like, that this is just basic stuff, and maybe you don't know it. I'm not chastising you if you don't know it, but these are things that you should know, that maybe you have the opportunity to learn, or maybe this is the first time you're hearing about it, so maybe you need to go and pick up a book on it. Once again, I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings. I'm just saying, it's better to be caught on the top of the Wheel of Fortune than to be caught on the bottom, right? The Knight of Cups, the Page of Wands, the Ace of Pentacles. Don't be too proud about this right here. If someone is offering you a situation, be grateful for that situation. Be grateful for the seed that's handed to you. Because I kind of feel like you have a knight coming towards you right here, and you're this Page of Wands. You're an initiate. You're new. You don't know anything about this situation, but they're wanting to hand you off this emotional seed, this physical, tangible thing. Maybe they see you as being, you know, hey, that's a pretty cool page right there. I want to teach them this skill. I want to teach them this craft. I want to teach them this trade. I feel like they're worthy to know this. And here's the thing. A lot of these trades that people have, it all stems from, witchcraft. It is a craft in itself. Woodworking, metalworking, mechanical, any of that type of stuff, it is a craft. What is a craft? It comes from, a spiritual side. It comes from wanting to know and how to do it with your hands. That is what witchcraft is. Seeing a result and saying, how do I attain that result? Myself. Have you ever noticed how kind of mysterious older people are? How they have like that little glint in their eye? Like the really old people who are like 80, 90 years old, they have like kind of a smirk. They're down with the shit. Like, let's be real, Gemini. Don't think that they're not. And if they're looking at you like a page and like, you know what, I kind of want to teach that Gemini how to crochet something. I feel like that'd be a really good thing. Then you should take that advice from them, alright? It might seem pointless. You might think, well, why do I need to know how to knit? Why do I need to know how to crochet? Why do I need to know how to sew? Why? Because it gives you freedom. Because it allows you to break free from something that previously bound you. You didn't have that skill before. How can you use it? How can you, market it? How can you do something with it later on? If things shut down on the Wheel of Fortune, how can you support yourself? For example, a lot of tarot readers made money during the pandemic because they were reading cards online. A lot of people who created YouTube content, they made a lot of money during the pandemic because people didn't have anything else to do. Prior to the pandemic, a lot of people had gotten into that 3D printing of car parts, rebuilding engines for old cars. What's another thing that the people have gotten into? Playing an instrument. Going back to school for like chemistry. Something like that. Something that's really just out there. That's mystical. It's part of like, the mystery societies. New beginnings. You have a new beginning right here. You have this Ace of Pentacles being offered to you. Someone is going to try to teach you something. And you might think, that sounds dumb. I really don't want to learn it. But it'll be integral for you. It really will be. Whatever this is, you're going to need to have it. You're going to need to know how to do it. It could be something as simple as, let me teach you how to plant tulips. Or perennials. Perennials are really hard to grow. Like, yes, they emerge every year, but planting them properly is very important. Learning how to plant potatoes is important. Learning how to take care of livestock. They're just basic things that you're like, well, I live in the city, who cares? I can just go to the grocery store. Well, what happens when the grocery store, Rebirth, snake, bee, community. Because here's the thing. If shit does hit the fan, in a community, you need to have a skill that you can trade for other people. For example, if you know how to crochet a blanket, you could trade that for someone who knows how to beekeep. And you can get honey. And honey is a really good medicinal property. It's good for you physically, but it also, sweetens things as well. Learning how to fix a car or whatever this is right here, mechanical schooling, even pilot schooling, you could use that to trade for other wares. That's what the community is talking about. That's what the bee community is. It's also a representation of like a Masonic society. For example, if there's a rebirth in a community or in the world, say a calamity happens, the people who are going to make it are the ones who are, one, self-sufficient, who can take care of themselves, but can also trade wares back and forth with one another in a barter and trade society. I'm not going to say that that's going to happen. I'm just saying you have the opportunity to pick up a skill, and you can use that skill and teach it to someone else, so if they ever get into that situation, they will be able to survive, and your bloodline will be able to continue to survive, right? So, let's see, let's look at your Halloween oracles. Or maybe you just need to teach this to someone else. Eternal love. Love is love, and transcends physical death. And owl, wise seeing, wise action. in a way, this eternal love is like your ancestors are sending this older witch or this older person to you to teach you this. They're saying, hey, Gemini, we're with you. We've been with you, but you need to learn this skill. Wise seeing, wise action. Pay attention. Someone sees you. Someone is an owl. Someone is an actual owl. Someone is like a wizard right here. Or a mage or a magus, whatever you want to call them. And they see you. And your spirit guides, your ancestors are saying to that person, go and teach this Gemini this skill, this particular thing. Or you might just, it might catch your eye when you're walking through the bookstore. It's important. So don't shrug it off. So we lose sun, vitality, good health, good fortune and happiness, blessing and wholeness. You'll need it. It might actually just change your life. You might be like, wow, I've been a nurse all these years and now all of a sudden I'm into woodworking and I want to make this my career. Or leather crafting, whatever it is. Hey, leather crafting is a really, really good skill and it can make you a lot of money. So, Rado, speed your journey, ease a transition, aid communication, bring good news, and find your spiritual way. Let me get you a couple of Awaken cards. Gosh, it's hot. I need to turn off that heater. Light as matter. Oh, 2 cards came out. And integration. You need to integrate this into your life right here. It's almost like the angels are appearing as a physical manifestation of something, that Ace of Pentacles, and saying, learn this, do this. It will help you. So anyway, Gemini, it's all about, like, you can't see it. You can't understand why you have to do it. It's kind of like going around in your head like, maybe, yeah, why do people keep telling me to do this? Why is this like a constant reoccurrence within my life? Why do people keep telling me I need to focus on this one skill that I have? Like, yeah, it's a skill, but it's nothing really special. No, it's something that you need to focus on in 2023 because you don't want to be caught on the bottom of the Wheel of Fortune. You already want to have it established to a point where you can reuse it over and over again. Okay? Witching. Well-witchers. That's a skill right there. People who can find water with a stick. That's a real thing. Well-witching. Some people can teach you how to do that. Maybe that's something that's going to happen to you, Gemini, as someone could be a well-witcher, and they could want to teach you how to be a well-witcher, and you're like, well, that's kind of dumb. Is that even real? Well, yeah, how do you think they found wells in, like, the 1600s? A well-witcher. And those wells are still, able to have water drawn from them to this day. It's a skill that is, like, really, really critical. And, well-witching can actually help you in, like, the desert, because at some points in the desert, there are actually deposits of water. So, anyway, Gemini, just pay attention to that. I kind of feel like the sun is speaking to you right here. Remember, you're Mercury, right? The sun, the Sawilu energy, it's sending you a message. And you're like, okay, but why is the sun sending me a message? I'd rather not have to deal with this right now. But when the sun sends you a message, you have to absorb that message. You have to feel the heat of that message. You have to deal with it. And then you have to send that message out to the rest of the planets after you fully grasp the concept. But that's the good thing about it, is that you are always in the know, Gemini. That's why you have the gift of gab. That's why you're ruled by the twins. That's why you have, like, your brain moves at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Because you're always in the know. You're always the first one who's illuminated to something. So if the universe is trying to illuminate you first to something, before it illuminates anyone else, take that opportunity and say, I'm going to go into it. I'm going to give it 100%. Might not need it, might need it. One day I could teach it to another person, but I'm going to know it because the sun is telling me I need to know it. And I'm going to integrate that into my life. Light as matter, right? So anyway, Gemini, I hope you enjoyed this reading. I'll talk to you later.